Hello and welcome to the Addams family. That was well timed, John. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Movie News here at MBA, folks. Thank you for joining us once again on our YouTube channel and, of course, our Twitch stream. It's all appreciated here from the team at MBE. As you can hear in the background and on split screen now, there we go. We're getting used to this technology, aren't we?
Well, then,
it's John C. Walsh.
Slightly colourful t-shirt because the other one, I sweated out.
Yeah.
I've got the Rona again, I think.
Plain grey on as usual, John. Yeah. Very, very boring and conservative. But as you can guess from our thumbnail, we're going to be talking about Blumhouse. Yeah. And this is the headline for today's show, John. It's coming in from Screen Rant, and it's Blumhouse doesn't have control of Dark Universe despite Invisible Man and Wolfman. We already knew this, but we'll just get into this article because it's quite interesting, you know, and where this can lead if Blumhouse can get some control over this monster universe. But after Invisible Man proved the viability of the old Universal monsters outside the realm of an interconnected MCU-esque universe, Blumhouse has also been entrusted with making a new version of the Wolfman. But despite both these key Dark Universe properties being handed to Blumhouse to nurture, Universal is still not ready to give the keys entirely to Jason Blum and his operation, as Blum told the Inverse when asked about his plans for the rest of the Universal monsters. He said this: "I wish I was the right person to ask this. I'm just not. They let us produce Invisible Man and they're going to let us produce Wolfman, but the monsters and their fate and the direction of what the monsters mean overall, that's entirely still a question for Universal. I'd love to be in charge of them, but I'm not." I don't know what you're laughing at, John. There's something happening here. I don't know.
A rather fat ginger-haired gentleman that I just googled, Stephen, an artist from the 1980s, obscure. And the reason I googled it, I just wanted to double check his name was Steve Walsh. Some fat random artist. I think he passed away actually, potentially of a heart attack. But it's when you read that out, that quote, it's always connecting in, I promise you.
I hope so.
When you says the Invisible Man proved there was still some viability for the old monster universe. His famous catchphrase was "You what? You what? You what? You what? You what?" There's not a chance, man. There's not a chance this is a viable interconnected cinematic universe. But that's got nothing to do with the actual topic in hand, Stephen. So I suppose I don't know where I'm going with that. But clearly, Stephen, Jason Blum, not Stephen. I'm obsessed with Stephen. Your name's Stephen, Steve Walsh. Clearly, Jason Blum still thinks there's a chance, there's some viability for a cinematic universe involving these monsters, because he's at the forefront of producing not one but two of the movies involved. Yeah. And look, man, as I did say, I'm going to get into it later on, potentially after you've had your say as well, Stephen. But there's another article involving Jason Blum. And I keep wanting to say Jason Bourne for some reason. He speaks about the pitfalls of big budget horror movies and how the MCU are going to incorporate horror as a genre into the MCU with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and obviously Blade with Mahershala Ali. And he says there's some pitfalls to be had. I think he's the perfect guy to spearhead this monster universe. If they still have delusions of grandeur surrounding the potential cinematic universe, I think this guy's the perfect guy to be the Kevin Feige of the monster universe, because he understands horror, the minutiae of horror, how to do the genre on a budget, which is what all studios want to hear, because they're going to make money if it's on a tight budget and it makes money like most Blumhouse horror movies, good ones do, then that's good for the studio.
Exactly. I'd like to say this is very similar to the sort of set up an agreement that Sony have got with Marvel, but it's not, because Blumhouse don't own any rights or ever have had any rights in ownership of these characters, unfortunately. They are a great production team. We've spoke about them time and time again on their sort of business model, the way they produce films, the way they make money. Every week. We talk about them almost every month, just the way they do things. They always get one really, really good film that's successful at the box office out of 10. Yeah. And they're not really bothered about the other 9. They'll get something back from them. They make plenty of money on very small budgets as well. And that's something that Universal could learn from as well. Yep. Unfortunately, they hold the key to the the kingdom, if you like, or in this universe. And
what a tragedy that is.
It is. I think, do they not own the rights to the Incredible Hulk as well? I think
they do indeed. Yes, I do believe. Yes.
Or maybe they want them. They want the Incredible Hulk in the Monster Universe as well. That would be something. But
what have I done, man? What's
I
the article?
I don't know, John. I know that you were going to talk about obviously Blumhouse and
what's the main article
and their views on certain things. But my take on this, it's very unfortunate, but it's not the worst thing for us as audience members. We've already got a very successful Invisible Man. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm pretty sure Wolfman will be another great film. It's your man, isn't it?
Ryan Gosling.
Gosling, yeah. It's going to be.
I think he'll be great, Steve.
I think so as well, John. So
never underestimate
I'm going to look forward to that as well. So as an audience member, it doesn't really bother me as long as they keep putting out these great films. Mm-hmm. They can always think about interconnecting these films later on. There's no rush. Don't do a DC on this. Take your time, see how it goes, and maybe after 5 films of 5 different characters, then consider possibly is there something there? Is there a want for this? Is there a need for this? Who knows?
Elizabeth Moss, is it?
Yeah.
Who's potentially going to be continuing on the Invisible Man franchise.
Invisible Woman, yeah.
Is it going to exactly? She's not a man. We daren't jump to conclusions about pronouns, Stephen, because we know that's a dodgy battlefield, minefield, if you like. Don't want to say that she's a he or she or the invisible man or woman, because it could be anything these days, gender fluidity and stuff like that. We'll not go down the pronoun minefield, but just for now we'll say invisible woman, and she could potentially be
the invisible subject,
the invisible subject, the invisible creature, it. That's why Stephen King, he had it nailed 30 years ago with Pennywise and whatnot. It, just an it. We're all its in a sense. Dogs are its, humans are its. But look,
that thing in Chan Cross.
Oh, that wasn't it.
That wasn't it.
Oh, wow. I don't know what that was to this day, Stephen. No. That was something straight out of a Stephen King novel, a horror novel. Maybe it was Pennywise. Maybe it was Pennywise taking on a form. Maybe the left. What was it?
It was definitely a Tim Curry-esque person.
Oh, mixed with Marilyn Manson. But what I was getting at, Stephen, I can't. We speak about cinematic universes continuing on these monsters in different veins and whatnot. I can't see how Elizabeth Moss's invisible woman, invisible it thing, whatever it is, can be a functioning part of a cinematic universe with the likes of Dracula, a werewolf, mummies, Frankenstein, all of the various oddballs that pop up.
Without oversaturating the sort of mystery of the character.
What could the invisible woman character bring to the table when you've got a everlasting, immortal vampire and all these other crazy brute physical sort of creatures? Stephen, I'm going to quickly try this. I've not tried this scene on an actual show. This could be a disaster. There you go. I'm on the screen with the actual article because I didn't share this with you. I flung you under the bus before the show actually started.
Oh, that's good.
I can't even read the quote, so this is going to be fun because the camera's in the way. But this is Jason Blum talking about Marvel. I'm going to fling you under the bus again. I know you're the host. I'm kind of gerrymandering here.
No, you're fine.
But he says in a quote, I have two minds. I'm going to go back and forth between the actual... the camera, because I can't see. I would never bet against Marvel. They do have a relatively good track record. That's a joke. They have one of the best track records ever, right? I do think it's a challenge to do horror at big budgets, but if anyone can do it, it's Marvel. And of course, as I did say, he's talking, I'll come back now, about the, obviously, Multiverse of Madness and, obviously, Blade and starring Mahershala Ali. Do you agree with him? And do you agree with me that Jason Blum is the perfect man to lead this universe? I understand you're saying that we don't want to get ahead of ourselves with a universe talk and stuff like that. Just give us some good standalone
John,
movies.
only because of the current structure. Because they don't hold the cards. If they're given the power and the rights to do this, then yes, he's got a proven track record with his production company that he can make successful horror films. John, you're actually looking back at Blumhouse's sort of history just before we came on air. The amount of genres they've covered as well. It's not just horror. That's what we always relate to when we talk about Blumhouse.
Done Black K, Klansman, and there was another one. I can't recall which one it was. I've actually got Blumhouse up, I do believe, but I've lost it, so it doesn't matter. But they produce other genres, and they seem
to be involved. It was Whiplash.
Whiplash, yeah, of course, with J.K. Simmons. I called him J. Jonah Jameson because that character's just intrinsically linked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they've just been remarkably successful over the last decade. They were founded in 2000, but they've really rose to prominence in the last 10 years or so. Mostly horror and doing good horror. So I'd love to see this guy, as I keep repeating myself, take over as the sort of Kevin Feige producer, overseeing figure of this monster universe. It started off terribly. That Mummy movie was shit, an atrocity. Cruise wasn't that bad, but he had his hands full with a bad script. It wasn't even as good as the second Mummy Returns movie, which wasn't even as good as the first Mummy movie from '99 with Brendan Fraser. Remember him?
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that later on in the show, actually.
Exactly. So, man, they had their hands tied from the get-go. They announced the likes of Russell Crowe as Jekyll and Hyde. I think Johnny Depp was involved, Javier Bardem. There was lots of names involved. They got ahead of themselves. First movie was shit. Now they're slowly starting to rebuild it. So hopefully they get their shit together. They can sort of step out of the usual pitfalls of a cinematic universe like we've seen with the likes of DC and whatnot, and actually make a good go of it, and then make Jason Blum the Kevin Feige figure. But man, I've got nothing else to say.
No, well, listen, John, hopefully, time will tell, and hopefully everyone being sensible, it will fall into the laps of Blumhouse eventually, and we can get a really good universe going. But we're going to move on anyway, John, to our next topic. It's why Mads Mikkelsen is Fantastic Beasts' perfect Grindelwald replacement. I know that you covered some of this last night, John, in the headline.
Yeah, speculated
for tonight. So it looks like Mikkelsen already is in talks to replace Depp as Grindelwald. It remains to be seen whether or not the Danish actor will officially sign on. Whatever the case, there is just no denying that he would be a perfect choice for the role. For starters, no matter which side of the fence one sits on regarding the situation surrounding Depp, the last thing any studio would want is one of their films overshadowed by an actor's very public court battles. It would appear Depp himself has graciously acknowledged and accepted this fact. Mikkelsen is, conversely, entirely baggage free. Furthermore, Mikkelsen has in recent years become an almost universally beloved figure. I would agree with that.
Yes.
As a result, his casting will no doubt bring a wave of passionate support to the project, with some non-Harry Potter fans likely even paying attention merely because of his involvement. I don't know, John, but at the end of the day, he does drink a beer that you don't like, but you're even tempted to drink it because of this man.
Such is the allure of Mads Mikkelsen and his magnificent gravelly voice, slightly receding hairline, but still magnificent nonetheless. The man, he makes you do things you don't want to do. Drink Carlsberg.
That's power. What is your view on this, John? I know that he spoke on the sort of speculation, but he's a front runner, I should say, to take over from Johnny Depp. You spoke quite passionately about this on Monday. More about Warner Brothers more than the actual film itself and the franchise. But Mads Mikkelsen being casted, does this change your mind in any ways?
That doesn't change my mind about the decision to sack Johnny Depp, in a sense. They didn't sack him, but they pretty much did. They forced him out the door. He's getting full pay though, so that kind of changed my mind. In fact, he's managed to walk out with his full pay, and I'm sure it wasn't cheap, playing the lead antagonist in a franchise like this, so that kind of changed my mind. At least he's got off with all the money, so he's not caring, which means I don't care. But the choice of perhaps Mads Mikkelsen portraying the character, that kind of slightly changes my mind, because the guy's got such draws. You did say he makes me want to drink a beer I don't even like. That's Mads Mikkelsen's draw, and he's played so many great antagonists in the likes of Doctor Strange. I think he played the Casino Royale antagonist. He's done it time and time again. He's got that draw, he's got the acting chops. More importantly, he's in the same age range as Johnny Depp, and as I did speak about last night, lots of people, I'll go to myself to give you a break here, Stephen, because I always do it to you. Lots of people speaking about Tom Hardy and Tom Hiddleston and even James McAvoy, younger actors than Johnny Depp, coming in to portray this character, and it just wouldn't fit. I know we get a slightly younger version for Dumbledore with Michael Gambon taking over from Richard Harris. This is different though, because they were just portraying an old guy. Johnny Depp's got slick back white blonde hair, he's got the different coloured eyes, he's got the moustache, he's clearly of an age where he's youngish, but he's not too young. He's got that grizzliness about him. Therefore, you have to mimic that with the recast, with the recasted actor. So it bemused me that we're talking about the likes of Tom Hardy and Tom Hiddleston and James McAvoy. This guy's got the age right, he's got the look right, he can do the hairdo, even if it requires maybe a slight wig, a lace, if you like John Travolta wears all the time. And he can pull off a moustache. He's got the same facial shape.
Yeah.
More importantly, as I keep saying, he's a better actor. Not only is he a good actor, he's actually a better actor than Johnny Depp as well. Stephen, like I said last night, as much as I like Johnny Depp as a person and as an actor, he's a cool guy. He's like an actor version of Keith Richards. I think that's his hero. Sort of looks up to him. He wasn't that great despite that in the actual Fantastic Beasts franchise. 2 minutes of a cameo at the end of the first one after Colin Farrell was revealed to not be Grindelwald. Second one, he was just walking around looking broody and being mysterious. He didn't have to do that much acting. The speech was cool at the end. So he's not been that great. He can be replaced as an acting performance. And certainly Mikkelsen can come in and do a better performance. I think he's a better actor.
John, going forward, this is going to be the third instalment of that franchise with another 2 films to go.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would commit to Mikkelsen just being on for the one film, then do the same again for the fourth and fifth, just to keep it sort of no? Would you rather he just? I think
if they sack Amber Heard and I've actually got interest in this afterwards, and I'm sure that will happen after the libel suit over in the States. I'm sure turd will be dust. Then yes, I would want to see Mikkelsen continuing on as a character through the last 3 movies of this franchise, because he's a great actor. He's of the right age, just to keep that continuity and that sort of the story moving on. You don't want to keep having different actors coming in and portraying the character again and again.
It's jarring enough, isn't it?
It's not Doctor Who here, and even then they don't do it. They at least give 4 or 5 seasons between changes.
Well, that's it,
unless you're Christopher Eccleston, in which case you give up after 1 season because he's Christopher Eccleston. He can do what he wants. But I mean, I wouldn't want to see that. I'd like to see him continue on, just keep it going to the end, and then it's not too jarring. Depp does the first 2, you have that transition, you get over it, and then it's Mikkelsen thereafter. They really have to get the visual aspects right, though. We can't have him doing his own look and completely being different to Depp. He needs to grow out the hair. He needs to at least get a wig or something, blonde, get the sides shaved in, get the tash and the eyes. We need that transition on a visual aspect.
Yeah.
Then he can give his own performance after that, and he's going to have the meat and bones of the character anyway. Stephen, moving on, the relationship with Dumbledore, the Wizard War, and all of that. This has just been setting up to this. Depp's only been setting it up. He's going to carry it on and actually do the blood and guts of the acting.
The acting, exactly.
So it's good.
We'll
just have to, at the right time.
We'll just have to wait and see. It's not been confirmed yet, but it does look likely that it's going to be Mads Mikkelsen taking over the role. But we're going to move on, John, to you were actually touching on it, mentioning The Mummy Returns, because that was the first appearance of this character.
Was it deliberate?
I don't think the look of this character in The Mummy Returns was deliberate either to be looking bad, but it was shockingly bad. In fact, I think the Corridor crew went back and did their own version of this, and they did a really good job of it. But it's Dwayne Johnson is set to reboot The Scorpion King. I watched the actual standalone film. It was actually okay. It was one of Dwayne Johnson's early movies as well. As obviously a lead. And Universal Pictures and Dwayne Johnson are rebooting the Scorpion King movie. Johnson will not reprise the title role, but he will serve as an EP. Now, what does EP mean?
EP? No, I'm not sure.
I think that's an advisor or something like that, isn't it?
Executive producer?
Executive producer. Deadline reported that Universal Pictures and Dwayne Johnson are rebooting the Scorpion King movie alongside Danny Garcia's Seven Bucks Productions. Johnson and Danny Garcia have been signed to executive produce the movie, whereas Straight Outta Compton writer Jonathan Herman has been locked to pen the script. As per Deadline, the Scorpion King reboot will not be led by Johnson. Rather than a new actor will top-line the film, Johnson said, "The Scorpion King was one of my very first roles ever on the silver screen, and I'm honoured and excited to reimagine and deliver this cool mythology to a whole new generation. I'm thrilled that we at Seven Bucks Productions can help create those same opportunities for other hard-working actors today." Obviously, no one's been cast yet, John, in the lead role, but it's good to see that Dwayne Johnson still has an interest and a passion for the character. And I always said there was a lot of potential. When this film came out, I think it was 2001 or something. It was very early 2000s anyway, on the back of the sort of popularity of the character in Mummy Returns. Ignoring the look. Oh, I don't know what that noise was there, John. I don't know what that was. Was Prince Charles-esque, but I think it's got potential. It
Prince
certainly
Charles.
has. Yeah, so I'm not going there. I don't want to frighten people away.
Camilla.
Let's not go there. Don't mention her. People will run for the hills.
Camilla will be my queen. She'll not be anyone else's queen though, the old hag.
Yeah, we're not talking about queens, we're talking about kings here.
Yes,
so
thank God.
we'll
A king that I can actually care about.
Is that something that, I was going to ask you,
shit about
do
the
you
British
care
monarchy?
about the Scorpion King that much? It's been 2 decades almost since we last saw this character.
Yeah.
I liked the character in The Mummy Returns. He just looked terrible. I think it was one of the very first sort of, I don't know what you call
CGI?
that. The
video game?
The what's that called? The thing, the not the stop motion, the
mocap.
Mocap, that's the one.
The mocap king, Stephen, obviously Andy Serkis, that's who I always think of. I don't think he had anything to do with this, incidentally.
No, I don't think so.
We
But
don't
the
besmirch
technology
that,
has obviously advanced in the last 20 years, Jordan. Is it something that would excite
Stephen,
you?
you say that? Yeah, Andy Serkis was doing Golem for the Lord of the Rings around about the same time. I can go back and watch the Lord. You've gave me the extended editions. I'm going to watch them pretty shortly, probably the weekend. That ain't aged.
So what was
the
excuse then?
Yeah, it's just no budget.
Cheap. Yeah. Cheap.
We thought we'll bring in Dwayne Johnson. His sort of facial likeness will bring enough bums to seats. And then they get to the very end of the movie, because I think it came at the end. We'll have their money anyway, and we'll have their eyeballs for 3/4 of the movie. We don't really give a shit after that. So it was a con job, an elaborate con job. Yeah. Did I care about the character? Honestly, not really. No. I don't. I prefer Brendan Fraser as a sort of mummy chaser, the sort of modern day version of Indiana Jones. He wasn't Harrison Ford, of course, but he was okay. I liked the little weasel guy, the back and forth banter between them. I can't recall his name.
Benny,
Rachel Weisz was in there, and was it the Scottish guy? John Hannah. So I preferred the first Mummy movie. Mummy Returns was okay. I think they introduced a son character. He was annoying. The story wasn't as good. Who was the guy who played the actual Imhotep as well?
He was South African. I can't remember his name.
He was a really good actor.
He was really creepy as well. Yeah. It's just funny that you mentioned that, they throw the kid in. This is something that a lot of sequels
don't want to see a kid,
play foul to. It's almost like a Kevin McAllister-esque character that you don't need, but
slows the pacing down.
It was the same with the Crystal Skull. I know that obviously Shia LaBeouf is not a bit older, but it's a bit.
It's a needless character.
It's as if we're passing the baton on, but we're not really, because we're too afraid to let it go of the baton. But we'll just put him in there anyway, and I don't like that. And it was the same with that film. But the Scorpion King, I think it was deliberate though. If I recall, John, I do remember a documentary that he was only thrown in at the last minute to The Mummy Returns because they wanted to sort of put the feelers out on how this character would be received, because he wasn't really in the film that much. I think he had a little brief bit at the very beginning and then 20 minutes at the very end or something like that. It was very brief, but it was very jarring as well, as I recall.
Well, Stephen, I'm looking at the actual Scorpion King, the details. It came out in 2002, so it was definitely in the midst of...
Was John Amos in that film?
John Amos, I don't think he was in it, no. I'm having a look, I'll just tell you just now. I don't think so, I don't see his name there, sadly, so no, he wasn't there.
I don't know who I was thinking then.
We've got Kelly Hu, she played the Sauce something. We've got Michael Clark do something. I think that was a big guy from the Green Mile. Big tall guy. It was a big tall guy from the Green Mile. He was great, man. I love that. Yeah, what happened to that actor? He just disappeared off a cliff, the Dover cliff. But Stephen, the actual movie, it done okay financially. It grossed $60 million. Its budget was it grossed $178.8 million off of a $60 million budget. Probably broke even. Maybe made a sliver of a profit, so that's decent. Yeah. So it shows you there was enough financial impetus for the studio to perhaps build on a sequel. Ratings wise, it's not getting amazing ratings by any means, but it certainly was better than the Mummy. What was it? Mummy Returns that he popped up initially. Yeah. It certainly did do a better job. There was no CG involved, if I recall correctly. It was more his backstory. I've not seen it in a long time, but I'm not adverse to them rebooting it. If he's getting into sort of producing as well, that's great for Dwayne, because I've said it before with Michael B. Jordan, Margot Robbie, whole array of other actors. They step out of the sort of shackles of one-dimensional acting. They go into producing and directing and writing. That elongates, it sort of adds longevity to their career. I don't know why I say elongate. It adds extra longevity. That's the word I needed.
That's the one.
To their career. Because when they start getting older, they don't get gave these. They just don't. They're not given. They don't get gave is not English. They're not given these roles anymore as they start hitting their 50s, and Dwayne's getting into his mid-50s.
I'd love to see anyone try to read the captions for what you just said.
They don't get gave. It sounds like a rap or something, man.
Yeah,
Terrible.
Or a Yorkshireman.
Yeah, don't get gave on internet. I love Yorkshire. I love Sean Bain. My dog's from Yorkshire. He's from Sheffield, so I absolutely love Yorkshire. I love doing the accent as well. But yeah, Stephen, I digress. That tangent aside, I was possessed by a Yorkshireman there briefly. It adds longevity to his career, so I like the fact that he's getting into a producing role as well. So that's something I like to see about this. He's stepping into that. He's producing it. He's got prior knowledge and sort of insight into this actual character. So look, it'll depend on who they get into portray the character. The casting's going to be absolutely important. It needs to be someone with presence, charisma, personality. Not like that guy they got in to do the Predator. He was shit. Something Boyd, I think. Boyd Hellbrook or some shit like that. He was terrible. He wasn't even remotely Schwarzenegger. So the casting has to be bang on. But I tell you what, man, the writers there, Jonathan Herman, I love Straight Outta Compton. That was a great movie. So I wish them well. I'm going to search up if it was Boyd Hellbrook. I'm pretty sure it was Boyd Hellbrook.
Yeah.
How did I find that
That's
name?
Not the guy for Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did I find Boyd Hellbrook in my brain? But I can't say like Josh Brolin and names like that. And I forget the Irishman last night. My brain's strange.
Yeah, that's
Very
right.
strange.
Yeah, but listen, we're going to move on, John.
Strange.
We'll just have to wait and see how that unfurls. But I wish him well. I think it's a character that the next generation, I think, may take to. Especially now, Dwayne Johnson's in a different position now than he was 20 years ago. You know, he's learned a lot. In his acting, obviously, but I think behind the camera as well, this is going to be a great move for him as well, because I think we're going to see more of Dwayne and sort of behind the camera, and maybe eventually direct as well. So who knows? But we'll move on, John, to our next article. It's Zack Snyder would love to make a Dark Knight Returns movie. Returns. Yes, Zack Snyder's Justice League director, Zack Snyder's Justice League director, Zack Snyder. Come on, screen man, what is that? Says that he would love the opportunity to make a movie based on the Dark Knight Returns. Batman. Batman. I don't think I can recover from that headline actually. But Zack Snyder stopped by the Nerd Queens League of Mayhem stream. There he revealed that he would be interested in making a film based on the Dark Knight Returns. He says that he's obsessed with the miniseries and that his dream to eventually turn the story into a film. You can check out Snyder's full statement on the subject below. You don't have to bother, you can just listen to me ramble on and I will read it, John. I saw a tweet recently like Snyder needs to start reading Dark Knight Returns. He needs to read another Batman comic. I almost tweeted back, I almost said Jay Olivia replied like there's aren't any others. I'm so obsessed with that comic. I always thought that maybe one day down the road, as a one-off, just as a crusty old Batman, we just do it. It's a dream I have. It's interesting, John, that Zack Snyder. I've got to be honest, John. I didn't think that he had that much of an interest. I didn't know anything about this. That he was interested in this Dark Knight's Returns series or mini-series. What's your take on this? Because is it something you think would be right down his street? Because, people forget, this is the guy that did Watchmen. 300 as well? Yeah. I'm sure he did 300. Yeah. That kind of...
visual.
Yeah.
Dark, gritty.
Exactly. Would be right down his street. This is something I would like to see, actually.
Well, Stephen, I'm reading the actual synopsis, the plot for The Dark Knight Returns. I wasn't aware of what it consisted of. By all accounts, set in a dystopian version of Gotham City in 1986. Bruce Wayne, age 55, has given up the mantle of Batman after the death of Jason Todd 10 years prior and now lives as a bored bachelor. Crime's running rampant. People, mutants are terrorising Gotham. So that sounds perfect, man.
John,
he returns to his role as a vigilante.
Like
it does. It sounds like The Watchmen. And it sounds like we kind of done with Ben Affleck anyway in the DCEU. He introduced this grislier, sort of older version of Batman, Bruce Wayne. Obviously, he hadn't gave up the actual mantle of Batman at that point. So this sounds something that's perfect for a Zack Snyder. And look, he's clearly on the good side of Warner Brothers again, because they've allowed him to go in and redo the Justice League in his own vision. Yeah. Potentially setting up an alternate universe in the DCEU. This could be the actual Justice League story. The Joss Whedon one gets decanted out the building unceremoniously. So look, this sounds perfect, and it's possible he could be given the green light at some point in the next decade or so to do this. After Matt Reeves has done it, they're not going to have two different Batman movies happening. I know we've got multiple versions of Joker.
We don't want to bury another Batman.
We don't want to bury another Batman, as Steve Coogan said famously. Don't want to have to bury. I can't do cannot do Michael Caine, so I'm not even going to try it. No one can do Michael Caine except from Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan, and they can do him very well, although I have to say Brydon does it quite a bit better.
Yeah.
Certainly that Alfred Pennyworth version, I was about to say Pennywise again there. It was like last night, I don't know if you watched it, Stephen. I had issues with saying Finn again. I was wanting to say Foe. It took me about 3 seconds to formulate Finn in my brain. And no, it's not Foe, John, that's Poe Dameron. It's not Cameron Poe, it's Finn.
It's not Pin.
It's not Pin, yeah. Phone Pin. Oh, Jesus. Still to this day, I regret that not being kept. I wish I'd kept that actual sort of outtake.
John,
that was fantastic.
Count your blessings it wasn't live.
It wasn't. Well, Stephen, well, worst things have happened
back.
live, let's be honest. That show from a couple of weeks ago, that was a pure and utter mental collapse.
John,
for me.
we'll have him.
Yeah, but look, Stephen, I'm going off on tangents here, man. What do you make now that you've actually heard the synopsis of this? Is that something you agree it's absolutely perfect for Zack Snyder?
Yeah.
I don't know who Jason Todd is, I have to say. Is that
it's one of the Robins, isn't it?
Yeah, is that Robin? Yeah. Stephen, I read something
or
very
Nightwing.
Interesting. Yeah, I went off on a tangent again here, but I read something very interesting. There was an article when I was trying to put together topics for the show, and it was Robin from the Batman v Superman, the shot of the suit, and it's burnt. They revealed in a sort of little book or something, or maybe a post, I think it was the prop designers, what happened to Robin. He actually get burnt. He get killed brutally by Joker, then set alight, and then he actually obviously recovered the suit and they put it up as a sort of warning. I thought that was amazing, man. Just how they took that from that little shot of the armour, what happened to him, and how that sort of built the backstory of Batman and his relationship with him. And it was I think it was Dean Drake or Trey, I can't recall the other version. It was more like the Nightwing version of Robin. So I found that amazing, and again that's sort of something that Snyder's put together, so he's got that in his toolbox to create something dark like that. So
yeah, I think the fact that, John, it is a mini-series, I think that's probably the format Zack Snyder should go, rather than doing a standalone movie. I would rather see a television series, a high budget television series of this mini-series as a live action. Because it's certainly something that interests me. He has went down the route of alternate 1980s alternate decades past, like he did with Watchmen.
And a dystopian future.
Yeah, and someone
future.
taking the mantle of a legendary figure. In this case, it would be obviously the Dark Knight Returns. It's something I would like to see. I think this is his sort of forte, if you like. You talk about visuals, John. There's not many people like him in the business where you can look at it and go, that's a Zack Snyder film. Because he's got a unique look to his films.
A lot of people
didn't like Man of Steel for that. I thought it was the best thing they can do. We talked about Superman Returns the other day, and as much as I liked that film, we didn't need the film, and it was really just paying homage to the Christopher Reeves one. It needed a shake-up. Zack Snyder did that. Henry Cavill did that with his sort of portrayal as well of Clark Kent and Superman.
And Michael Shannon.
Yeah, just that tone. A lot of people moan about DC being too serious, but I thought the tone was handled very well for that film. And I know that it's the one that set up the DCEU. I still don't believe it was, John. I still believe that film was a standalone, and the universe thing
standalone in my brain, Stephen,
was an afterthought after the film's success. But I liked the look of it, and that was down to Zack Snyder. Absolutely,
Stephen. And look, the final thing I'll add, another little snippet, the forces of the police force and someone else, I think the US government and Gotham police force pushed back against him when they tried to regain control of the city, fighting crime and stuff. So that sounds like a perfect story again. And look, we've already seen it with DC and Warner Brothers with Joker, set in a sort of dark, gritty 1980s version of Gotham City, and it worked very well. People loved it, despite the critics. I think
where we're at just now as well, with obviously Matt Reeves' Batman coming out, John, we're going to be getting the multiverse of Batman, if you like, as well coming in. I think a mini-series would be the best sort of route to take this.
That would be great, Stephen.
I think it would,
a little snippet of this in Flashpoint, and Snyder being green lit, maybe a mini-series
that's
on
almost
HBO
like
Max.
Peter Capaldi's sort of eyebrows appearing in that Doctor Who episode, John, and then it goes off and does its own thing. It'd
just
be a great
this vision of the city.
Yeah,
that
would be amazing. Yeah,
and then he gets a HBO Max series. That would
be amazing. I never thought of that.
Fantastic, man.
So we'll just have to wait and see. But
he's putting the feelers out.
Yeah, exactly. When he puts the feelers out, It normally does get done, John. So, but we'll move on to our final topic of today. It's again, we're keeping up tradition here. We're ending with a Star Wars piece of news, and Leia was the chosen one in George Lucas' Star Wars sequel trilogy. This is according to a new book, John. This is coming in from Screen Rant once more, and I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs here, and then we'll get your thoughts on this, because I don't mind this actually. A new book reveals that Leia was the legendary chosen one in George Lucas' unused Star Wars sequel trilogy treatment. Beginning with 2015 Star Wars The Force Awakens, Lucasfilm and Disney delivered the final 3-episode piece of the grand 9-movie Star Wars puzzle originally promised by George Lucas. Of course, that final trilogy ended up being nothing like what Lucas himself would have envisaged, as he gave up creative control of the universe. He began recently a tidy sum of money in receiving a tidy sum of money in exchange. But now, with the Disney-made sequel trilogy having come and gone, leaving many fans cold with its seamlessly slapped together and unsatisfying story, there is increasing interest in the ideas Lucas himself would have brought to the table had Disney gone with his plan. While no full treatments or drafts have been released to the public, a few details have indeed gotten out about what Lucas wanted to do with the final 3 films of his cycle. Lucas himself has spoken about how his trilogy would have revealed more about the workings of the Force, including the mysterious creatures called the Wills. His films also would have focused on Luke Skywalker trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, with Luke becoming disillusioned and winding up in exile. That part actually happened in The Last Jedi.
That wasn't the problem with that, Steve. The problem was the journey to the exile. We didn't get to see it.
Exactly. It was a leap. It was such a massive leap. Now, thanks to the new book Star Wars Archives, episodes 1 to 3, 1999 to 2005 by Paul Duncan, which features interviews with Lucas, more has been revealed about Lucas' sequel trilogy plans. Among the big pieces of news from the book is an apparent new resolution to the Chosen One prophecy, with Leia being tapped as the one to bring balance to the Force. The book reads, by the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, and we would have the renewal of the New Republic, with Leia, Senator Organa, becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything. So she ended up being the chosen one. What's your views on this, John? Because that, when the original trilogy was Luke's trilogy. No, I don't care what anybody says. It's not Anakin's. Anakin doesn't appear until the last.
It's a redemption of Anakin.
Yeah, but it's Luke's story. It's him that carries that story forward over those 3 films. Yeah, exactly. And the first 3 films, the prequel trilogy, was Anakin's trilogy. That was his rise and fall. As a Jedi. He was the chosen one. I always see Luke as being the chosen one of the original, and I would have liked to have seen Leia as the chosen one. I don't know what your views are on that, John. Because it would have, we talk about Lucas and his writings being very poetic, and it mirrors past events and stuff like that. It would have been very poetic for the first 3 episodes to be about the father, the next 3 episodes to be about the son, and then the last 3 to be about the daughter. And look, Yoda did say in The Empire Strikes Back there is another. So the hints were there. I know that he kind of rushed the Return of the Jedi, sort of sewing everything up in the one film. A lot of people didn't like it. It kind of worked. I think possibly, Return of the Jedi did suffer a little bit because there was too much going on to cram everything in. I also think that it felt rushed at points as well, just the acceptance that they were brother and sister as well. Because I know that originally it was going to be someone else that was going to be...
he was going to go off to another planet to find his actual sister and stuff like that. I think that was the original plan.
But what's your view on this, John? Is this something that would have interested you if Lucas had control creatively and episodes 7 to 9 was leading us to, obviously, Leia being the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything it says in this.
She didn't learn to be a Jedi. She didn't whip Luke's arse on some random planet. That suits me down to a T, Stephen. I love that, man. I love that concept. You're right. It's kind of poetic in a way too. That it's about it's the Skywalker saga. This is the culmination of the Skywalker saga. It starts with the father, then the son, and then the daughter. That's perfect. That rounds it out beautifully. And again, it would have been just so George Lucas to put Leia is the sort of forefront to the entire sequel trilogy, not just some random female character plucked out of a random planet, Jakku.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about,
the Skywalker saga. I mean, she isn't a Skywalker, she's a Palpatine, but it's a Skywalker saga. Makes no sense to me.
Do you think though, if Lucas was getting down this road of episodes 7, 8 and 9, we always said it should have been done in the 1990s when Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were at their sort of prime. Carrie Fisher, God rest her soul, always said in the lead up to these films that she feels so rusty in acting. She's not done it in years, and it did show. I'm not being disrespectful here, John. It did show in The Force Awakens.
Dialogue to an absolute bare minimum in The Force Awakens.
I don't think this trilogy would have really been a good idea for Carrie Fisher at that point in her life to carry those 3 films. I don't think she was doing.
Too old as well.
And I think. It would have been too much of a responsibility for her to sort of take that sort of character into 3 films, and the responsibility that the character is going to have a lot of screen time, probably top billing as well in that trilogy as well, I would assume. I always said that it should have been done in the 1990s. That's when it should have been done. But you're right, John. They decided not to do his outline. They decided to go off and do the Rey thing. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people disliked it, because I always feel that the first 6 films are connected in a way. Maybe not by look, because we talked about episode 1 and 3 the other day being jarring as continuity goes with the look of the first 6 films, but the storytelling is consistent. It gets wrapped up in episode 6, and then that sort of jump. And I think they made it too disconnected by plucking some unknown from, a random planet we've never heard of. We've never heard of the character.
She's not Skywalker.
Yeah.
And it's a Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
It doesn't connect. It's discombobulated. It's a shambles.
She's a Palpatine.
It wasn't thought out correctly at all. I know they've got Ben Solo in there, but he's not a Skywalker, man. He's a Skywalker through his mother, but his name's not Skywalker. So you've got the lineage sort of connection, but it doesn't work. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And that's why they lost me. I mean, I love Adam Driver. He's a great actor. The character was probably the most compelling.
I think that's why a lot of people were hoping Rey was Luke's daughter, because then it would have been okay. It might have been predictable, but it would have made sense.
Yeah, it would have made more sense than there being a Palpatine and then claiming the Skywalker name at the end. Makes no sense to me. I'm obsessed with Luke tonight.
John, I'm obsessed with the middle part between the grandfather and the granddaughter. This part in the middle, for life to be created with Palpatine.
I'm obsessed with the part where Palpatine had time in the middle of ruling the galaxy and wiping out Jedi and sort of keeping this pitbull of an underling, this apprentice and Darth Vader under control. Where did he find the time to procreate and have a son or a daughter? I think it was a son. It could
be what he was talking about in episode 3 about creating life.
Yeah.
Through
he done it with Shmi, didn't he? He created Anakin.
Yeah, I think that's probably their get out, but it's just...
You've given hope where there is none.
It's such a jump, isn't it?
It is. Stephen, look, man, I like the idea though, and you're right about the 90s being the perfect time, because I've just searched up Linda Hamilton there to see how old she was. She was actually the same age as Carrie Fisher. She's 64 now. Carrie was 60 when she passed away 4 years ago. And look what Linda Hamilton was doing with Sarah Connor in the 90s, 91, with Terminator 2, Judgment Day. She was absolutely kicking ass, as they like to say over in the States, kicking ass, as they like to say here. She was great. She was an absolute action hero. She would have been 34. So Carrie would have been 34, mid-30s in the 90s. They blew it, man. I know Lucas was waiting on the technology to be right before he could create the prequel trilogy, and then he wanted to do the sequels after that. He got it all wrong, man. He was discombobulated. They should have got the sequel trilogy out the way, then went back and done the prequels. There'd have been plenty of time, because these characters were younger. They could have recast. It would have been better.
Like they did.
They should have done the sequels when we still had a peak Harrison Ford if he was interested, a peak Mark Hamill, a peak Carrie Fisher, and a peak Peter Mayhew. We didn't have to bring in Jonas Suotamo. We could have brought goddamn Peter Mayhew back, man, when he was still able to walk. He wasn't sitting in seats and whatnot and getting some Finnish guy, magnificent though he is, to do the actual action stuff. He blew it, man. It'd have been brilliant, but it wasn't to be. He didn't do it. We get the prequels first for some reason. I don't know why. I'm kind of glad we did though, because with Christopher Lee in, he wouldn't have been able to do it. Unless he actually done it in the 90s and then done the prequels when he'd done them anyway.
McDermott might have been something to do with it as well, John.
Yeah, it may have been, yeah. Wait until he gets a little bit... Well, again, that makes no sense either, because he's older.
He's still going as well.
Yeah, he's still going. So, look, it's a shame, but look, man, it's poetic, the way it would have worked out. And look, I was talking about it last night as well, Stephen. They revealed in the same book that Darth Maul was going to be the villain.
Yeah, that's
interesting. He was going to return as a crime lord.
Yeah.
And it was going to be Darth Talon, his apprentice. He'd have been the villain. They would have fighting that. Would have been fighting. That would have been poetic as well. He gets killed at the start. He's the bitch of Palpatine. He gets sort of thrown to the dogs, if you like. He dies and then he goes full circle, and they have to fight him. That would have been poetic in some strange way. So wasn't to be though. We would have been revealing the wills and all of that, the microcosmic side of the Force. But instead we got
no, honey.
Kylo Ren is strong with the Force. Yeah. We must come with me to fight the First Order.
John, we could talk about this all day. We really could, and you're right. The jump between 6 and 7 is the thing that they're going to have to build over the next decade or so. With things like The Mandalorian, etc., that can help. A television series about Luke Skywalker may help as well. I think that's what make people accept the Luke Skywalker we do see in Episode 8 a bit more acceptable, but who knows?
Stephen, it's like I says, I didn't mind Luke being in exile on Act 2 in The Last Jedi in The Force Awakens, but it's the journey. We didn't get to see him in his pomp, waiting the floor with people, setting up a new Jedi Academy, helping his sister form the New Republic. We didn't get to see that side of it with Mark Hamill, so it's jarring. Seeing him, as you did say, young guy, at his peak, about to go on an amazing journey as a Jedi Master, and then it's 30 years in real time, 40 years and he's old. And he's disenfranchised. He's talking about the hubris of a Jedi. He's lost his hope. He's trying to kill his nephew. It's jarring as hell. Look at this dog, incidentally. Unbelievable, man. The shapes he's pulling down there. Wow. But yeah, it wasn't to be, man. I'd have loved to have seen Mark Hamill playing a prime Luke Skywalker in the 90s, but we didn't get it. George is to blame for that. Disney are to blame for that shambles of a sequel trilogy we did get. Everybody's to blame. And that's kind of down to the fans as well, Stephen, because they pissed Lucas off. They sold it to the... What was he called them? He called them the sort of slave masters or something like that. He called them something.
Mouse House.
So, the slave lords or something like that.
Yeah.
He made some disparaging remark and they had to come out and rescind it. But he was right, in a sense, because we all know about the history of Walt Disney. But that's a tangent we're not going to go off into. Fascism and whatnot. What's going on over in the States just now? We've got a fascist leader going all Adolf Hitler and trying to take over the country when he's lost an election. What's going on over there, man? Is Tango Man going to leave on January 20th? I don't know. This isn't a political show. Let's round it up, John. What is your thoughts on the topics you spoke about today, tonight, depending on where you are, this morning? Do you agree that Mads Mikkelsen would be a great Grindelwald, Gellert Grindelwald? Do you want to see him coming into this franchise? Would it reignite your interest in the absence of Johnny Depp? What's your thoughts on Dwayne Johnson talking about a Scorpion King movie? Is that something you're intrigued by? Do you want to see another Scorpion King movie? What do you make about... I've actually missed out the Jason Blum Monsterverse as well. Is that something you want to see? Do you want to see Jason? That's the headline of the show, John. Do you want to see Jason Blum taking over the Monsterverse? You think he can do a better job than whoever was in charge of that god-awful mummy movie? What do you make about Star Wars? The sequel was never to be. And Zack Snyder. Do you want to see Zack Snyder making a Dark Knight Returns movie, a mini-series on HBO Max? You want to see it pop up in Flashpoint, then appear as a TV show? If you've got anything to say at all, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. And also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And if you do, guys, that's what you'll get. But look, until then, as ever, bye bye.